My name's Patrick Spano, and I've been involved in martial arts for 24 years now.
Cool. Where did you get started with martial arts?
I started martial arts. I started judo when I was 9 years old. My dad was putting my brother into judo because he wasn't doing any sports at the time, and I was competing in gymnastics. Actually, I'd been competing for like 4 years already in gymnastics, and he was taking my brother down there, and I said I wanted to do judo. I want to do judo too, and he said, no, you're already doing too much. And I just started crying in the car, and until he was like, okay, you can do it. And I put on my gi and got on the mat, and haven't left the mat since then.
I love it. Was it your older brother that was doing it?
Yeah, it was my older brother.
That's cool. How much older is he?
He's like a year and a half older than me.
So you guys were pretty close?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's cool. So what was your, like, when you started training at 9, what was that kind of training like, and what was that like competition like?
The training was good. I went to a place called the Ford School of Judo by a guy named Ed Maley, who passed recently, who lots of people in Tampa could tell you they did judo, at least for a little bit, at Maley's. But I started there. He had a bunch of kids to go against, a lot of guys competing and stuff too. So it was good, and I was kind of a mean kid. I was like, had a bad temper, and I was always getting into little fights and stuff. So it was great. It was great to be able to go in there 2-3 times a week and fight it out and get out all my angst.
And you felt like that was like the outlet, you were able to like get all that out?
Oh yeah. I was like I said, I was trying to fight neighborhood kids, or just having a terrible temper or whatever. And then I got into one fight when I was 10 years old because a kid ripped me off on a Pokemon trade. But besides that, I literally have not been in a fight since I was 10 years old. And I can definitely like attribute that to not just judo, but wrestling, martial arts, and just getting all my frustrations and stuff out on the mat, and then wanting no part to do with that just wanting to chill after practice.
That's cool. So how long did you do judo at that school, and like when you were a kid?
We did judo with Maley for about 2 years, and then we went to St. Pete Judo for a while, and then we came back to Tampa Judo, and then I kind of with Tampa Judo, then we went with Del, El Mambi Judo, and I did really well with Del. I ended up being a junior national champion, and I got second at the Pan American Games, the junior Pan American Games, when I was 15. And then I just kind of transitioned out of judo and into wrestling. My brother and I were going to be in the same weight class that summer at nationals. It was before my senior year, and I was like, all right, well, I'll just concentrate on wrestling this summer, give judo a break. And I just kind of never went back full board. I practiced judo. I try to practice judo when I can. But just never really went back to being hardcore in judo like I was.
Like strictly only judo?
Yeah.
So you started wrestling like when you went to high school?
Yeah, I started wrestling in high school because my coach's kids did judo with us at the judo school. And so it worked out. We had a pretty solid team my freshman year of high school, but it worked out to where there was a weight class right there that needed to be filled at 145. And I was a little chubby for the weight class still. I was fatty patty in middle school. But I still lost like 20 pounds. I was like 165 after JV football season, and I was a little porker. And then I got down to 145. I probably could have gone lower, but it was a good fit for me that year, and I just really liked wrestling.
What was that first year of wrestling like? What was like some shit you remember from that first year?
Just taking lumps. I was a 14-year-old wrestling 145. I probably could have made 30 or 35 for sure. And when you're a freshman in high school, you're still kind of fat and stuff, and you're going against some of these guys that are like over 18 years old. You can tell they're having to shave. They got biceps growing out of their shoulders. They're just big, thick. They're grown men at that point, and I was still a little boy. So I was definitely really intimidated in a lot of matches. But I remember using a lot of judo in my matches, of course, catching some guys that were better than me with some throwing them straight to their back and pinning them. And I remember also trying all the judo stuff and be like, okay, well, that doesn't work. It doesn't work the same with the gi as with, a tie. So that was like figuring out what worked for my judo and wrestling and what didn't, and actually just learning wrestling.
That's cool. That's cool. So what were those 4 years kind of like? Right, and where did you wrestle?
At Chamberlin High School here in Tampa, where I'm also head coach.
That's really cool.
They're back there now, yeah.
That's really. So what was your wrestling experience like for those 4 years there?
It was good. I love high school wrestling, man. It's the season's intense, but it creates a lot of memories. You meet a lot of friends. I mean, I see people out and about that were wrestlers for other schools that I became friends with, that I trained with in the off season, that I wrestled with at a tournament in the summer, or I met at a camp, etc. So, I mean, wrestling, just like all martial arts, is, it's a really small community. So you get to know everybody really quickly. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, there's, another guy I know that I train with said it the best way. It's 4 years of free training. And with the price of martial arts and stuff these days, honestly, it's foolish to not take advantage of that as a kid, especially if you say you want to be an MMA fighter. And that wasn't my goal then, but just wrestling, that you can't get 4 years of competition like that. You can't get that experience. You can't get something that'll change you for the better. Like at that age, the number one thing there is high school wrestling, and everybody can do it. I mean, there are very, very few high schools that don't have wrestling, but for the most part, 99.9% of high schools have it. So
it's available to pretty much everyone.
Yeah, and go get that experience. Like if you're a kid out there, because if not, and especially if your goal is to be an MMA fighter, or even just like winning the ADCCs in jiu-jitsu, for example, or even your gi tournament stuff, wrestling will only benefit you in all other facets of combat sports and life in general too.
I feel like there's you can tell the difference between people that trained at a young age and kind of ingrained that technique and mindset from that adolescent stage and on. It kind of feels like it was blueprinted in at the earliest place possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's being coached, let's say, has been in my blood, I guess, for years. I started when I was 5 in gymnastics, and I was, had to be coached with that. It's very detail oriented. And then, judo, wrestling, definitely no different in that sense. So, it definitely taught me how to learn. A lot of people, and as a teacher, I'll say for sure, a lot of people don't get how to learn. They don't get how to train or study. But gymnastics with martial arts, they will teach you that, because if you don't, you'll be losing. And then you're going to look at the next guy and say, what did they do to get to that level? How are they getting this and I'm not? So, it's something that you can. If you don't have self-awareness will slap you right in the face when, you go out there and get your ass kicked in a wrestling match, that's for sure.
And I feel like learning how to be coachable is such an important thing to learn, and especially at such a young age. It's you can kind of see people that, are in their 20s and are still learning Oh yeah, a lot of these guys that are, coming off the streets to want to be an MMA fighter, it's not impossible. By any means, especially if they get in here right after high school. But, I see it all the time. If I make a correction with someone in wrestling and they're like, oh, but I thought it was like this. It's you don't need to tell me that. Just say, okay, and do it the right way now. It's a natural reaction. We all kind of do it. And of course, combat sports is training ourselves out of our body's natural reactions. 99.9% of the time, our natural reactions in fighting situations are wrong. They're going to get us beat up or killed or whatever. But it's one of those things, you receive that information, just put it into practice. There's no reason to tell me what was going on in your brain. I probably have, seen that same mistake a million times. Just keep going. Yeah. There's no reason for back and forth.
Yeah. This was a one-way input,
That's cool. So where did you go after those 4 years of wrestling?
I wrestled at this place called King College. They've changed the name to King University now. It's in Bristol, Tennessee. It's a Division II school.
So what was that like? You taken your high school experience there. What was your experience wrestling there like?
Oh, it was good. I mean, college wrestling is tough no matter what division you're in. You know, it's still the same grind, waking up in the morning, going to morning practices, cutting weight, you know, wrestling hard, you know, and the intensity is up there. You know, we did grind matches for an hour long, grind matches when you just wrestle with one person for an entire practice. And like our coaches are there like, break him, like shove his face in the mat, you know, and like, I mean, there are fights in college wrestling practices and stuff like that. And, you know, it's kind of just a normal part of it all. You know, it's definitely a grind, a little bit of a meat market. It's kind of like whoever survives in a certain sense, college wrestling. But, you know, it definitely made me the man I am today. That's for sure.
How long after wrestling in college did you go to Brazil?
Ooh, years later.
Years later?
Years later, really, yeah, because, you know, I lived in Spain for 3.5 years right after college.
I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
I did not know that, yeah.
That's why I speak Spanish.
That makes sense.
So I also have a degree in Spanish. So I lived in Spain for 3.5 years and I wrestled and I did judo while I was there. I was very fortunate. I got to wrestle and do judo with the Spanish national teams.
Very cool.
In Madrid there. Yeah, they have a place that's called El Centro de Alto Rendimiento, which means the Center of High Performance. And they have a few of them in Spain, but the Madrid one is definitely the biggest one. And so I got to wrestle and do judo, practice with them a lot. I actually wrestled for in some tournaments in Italy as well. I have Italian nationality too. I don't know if you know that.
No.
But yeah, so I did some wrestling with the Italian national team while I was there too. I trained with them, went to some of their local tournaments. So
That's really fucking cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a really good experience. I still haven't learned Italian, but that's, you know, on the list of languages and things to do.
Yeah, that's really cool. So how was like after that going to, you know, kind of like the origin of some of the martial arts that you wanted to learn? So what was that experience like?
So, I mean, really, I kind of not stumbled upon jiu-jitsu, but like my brother had done jiu-jitsu for a while already, you know, to help him with judo. And I kind of just hadn't gotten into it. And then after I came back from Spain, you know, my dad actually was like, you should try out jiu-jitsu, go down there. And I started doing some jiu-jitsu and it was fun. And then I got the teaching and coaching job at Chamberlin. So I kind of took off like 6 or 7 months, and I had a friend that moved down to Rio de Janeiro, Nick, and he ended up getting his black belt from Tereré, which is like the original favela champion, world champion in jiu-jitsu. Like he's an inspiration, like kids from the favelas in Brazil. But Nick was living down there, and he said, hey man, come visit me, and we're gonna do a jiu-jitsu tournament. So I said, okay, that's 3 months away. I can learn enough to compete in jiu-jitsu. So I started doing jiu-jitsu. I started studying Portuguese, and it was great. I went down there and got second no-gi and third in gi in my first IBJJF tournament. And I got to train Brazilian top team, which is where I trained the whole time when I moved back. And I met a lot of really cool people, a lot of really good jiu-jiteros and fighters, and it was just a great vibe. So when I came back from those 25 days, I was like, I could see myself moving here.
So you went for like a month, and then how long were you there when you came back after that?
It was the next year. I did the whole wrestling season and started training, and I decided I wanted to start dabbling into Muay Thai or to MMA. So I saw Brazil as killing two birds with one stone. You know, I wanted to have another adventure. I wanted to learn a third language, and I wanted to start fighting.
That's cool. So taking all of those experiences from everywhere you've trained over the years, like what is some stuff that you think you've taken away from it and applied to your training now and your life now?
In Brazil?
Or just taken from all of those experiences that we talked about and like talking about now.
I mean, just do the things you want to do. You know, I definitely like, you know, I'm fortunate enough to have family who supports me and stuff like that as well, and or have the money to do these kind of things I want to do. You know, but doing what you want to do in general. If you're not doing what you want to do, you're not going to be happy in the end. So like, you know, that doesn't mean, you know, you want to do something, you drop everything and you just do it. It's like, come up with a plan, figure out how you're going to do it and do it. Because if not, you know, it's only the things that we don't do that we regret.
Is there anything that you like off the bat kind of like think that with your experience in martial arts, like the way that has kind of like crafted and, you know, changed your mindset?
It's hard to say. I guess crafted would be more the word for it, because I wouldn't say changed my mindset, because I've kind of always been in it. So I haven't ever felt like a dramatic change necessarily in my mindset. It definitely got more intense when I started wrestling, and I stopped making so many excuses and stuff like that. But, you know, it's something that I've always been in. You know, and like I said, even though gymnastics isn't martial arts, it's still like pretty strenuous sport, especially for a kid like that, like the training we were doing. So it just has always shown me, you know, to be disciplined, and that if I want something, I gotta work for it. And you know, it's just made me happy. And I really like, one of my favorite things is actually when I see people, you know, drink the Kool-Aid, let's say, and join our little community, our martial arts community, and to see how much it changes their life and how much happier it makes them. And it's just really cool to see, because I don't know what it is, but there's nothing that will bring you more peace than trying to kill your friends in practice.
So one question I had, why do you think wrestlers are some of the best fighters?
Because we're the biggest beasts. We're the most savage, for sure. Like, you know, if you didn't wrestle 99% of the time, you've definitely never done anything close to the type of training that we do. The things we did, you know, the quarter-mile sprints, the stadiums with someone on your back, the runs carrying a 45-pound plate. Like, you know, other sports don't do that kind of shit. And when you know, and then when you get in the cage like that and you already have a way to score from your feet, and then you already have, you know, a way to score on the mat there, you're already more than halfway there from wrestling. The other stuff is easy, really.